Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we got another good one for you today. Today, we're actually connecting with Eric Clark. If you are familiar with the Okayest Hunter in that group, Eric is one of the members. He's a great guy. He's a marketing genius. He's an okay hunter, and despite what he says, he's a pretty good storyteller. So I hope you guys enjoy. I'm gonna let him go ahead and kick this thing off, but he starts it off pretty early with one of the most classic lines I think we've ever heard on this podcast. So real quick, Eric, thank you, of course, for jumping on the podcast. And to you listeners, thank you for tuning in. Now enjoy. All right, Eric, welcome to the Hunting Story Podcast, brother. How you doing?
Doing all right, man. Thank you very much for bringing me on.
Yeah, man, it's nice to have you here. I know we had a little bit of an urgent issue yesterday. You weren't feeling so well, so we had to reschedule. But here you are, 24 hours later, and feeling better. So I appreciate you taking the time, man. It's a big deal to ask someone to just sit down with me for an hour or two. So thank you.
Yeah, happy to do it, man. I talk to you all day long, so I'm sure you get that a lot. It's really hard to get people to stop talking. That is a good start.
Yeah, often we have to cut people off and just promise that we'll let them back on. But no one's getting on for a second episode until I've gone at least one full year. So we've got some time to go. But let's kick this thing off, man, as we usually do, which is having you introduce yourself so that people know who Eric Clark is.
Hey, yeah, I'm Eric Clark. I'm one of the co-founders of the Okayest Hunter. And yeah, I don't know. I lean into my failure as much as I can and try to make fun of myself, make light of things, and I take deer hunting pretty seriously to a degree, but not really. I just try to go out and have fun and make adventures and have a good time and appreciate the time that I do get outdoors and in nature. So if I happen to have some success along the way by connecting with the deer, bonus. That's it. Like it's all just good to get out for me.
That's awesome, man. I don't know if you're getting the same feedback, but I get this message frequently from different listeners, but they're like, man, it's nice to hear not the Cam Haines, not these guys that are killing 300-inch bulls and 200-inch deer. And they're like, it's nice to hear someone who's just okay and hear their stories of successes and failures. And I assume with kind of what you guys are doing, being the Okayest Hunters, that you probably get some of that same feedback. And what you guys are doing is pretty cool. And your Instagram is really funny. So I appreciate the humor that you guys are putting out there with your successes and your failures.
Yeah, it's a good time. We put out a lot of content, and come hunting season, it gets easier because I'm like, oh, that happened to me today. I'm gonna make a post about it. When it's off season, like, man, I don't know, I don't got much, but we continue to keep the train rolling all year long. So it's a good time, and yeah, we're not anything sensational, and I think for us, it's just trying to be relatable. And if it happened to me, there's a good chance someone else has probably experienced something similar. So just sharing those moments is important, I think, for the hunting community. That it's not all inches and antlers and bulls and big bucks down. Sometimes it's just there's more to a story or an angle that doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, or sometimes just fun to share when you've done something stupid, right? Cool, man. Well, that's why we're here, is to hear some of your stories. So why don't you just kick this thing off by maybe setting the stage on the first story that you have in mind?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like I'll try to. I don't know if it's a story. I'm pretty bad at storytelling, so I kind of told you that ahead of time. I'm like, told other people this. I've been on other podcasts, like, share your story. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not a good storyteller. But I would say, just kind of harkening back to when I started hunting, I was close to an adult onset hunter. I didn't even take hunter safety till I think I was like 16 or 17 because I had to be old enough to drive to get myself there and deal with all that. By the first time I went hunting, I think, yeah.
I was just gonna say, did who got you into it? Was it something you wanted to try yourself, or father, uncle?
Yeah, my dad got me into it. It's interesting because like my dad was gone for a chunk of time, like probably those most critical years from like 10 to 15. I didn't see him, but I knew that he had hunted, as a young kid, and maybe was drawn to it for that reason. And I was shooting a recurve in the backyard as a young kid, and climbing trees and all that stuff, and building forts and just spending time out in nature. And then somewhere in that span where he was gone, I just felt this calling to be in the woods. I got really into watching anything on Saturday or Sunday morning, like hunting shows, some outdoor channel. I didn't have cable, so whatever was on TV, that, like showed deer hunting. I was all about it. I wanted a BB gun. My mom wouldn't get me one. I wanted a bow. She wouldn't get me one. So then I just would go out in the woods and, try to pretend to hunt deer and like sit in a tree until one came around. I like observed them and stuff. And yeah, so fast forward, I reconnected with my dad, and he kind of like got me into hunter safety. A buddy of his actually was teaching the course, so I went to his house. There's a bunch of other people there too, and I went through hunter safety and stuff. And then it was later, I think the next year, so it would have been 17 or 18. It would have been like junior or senior high school. It was one of my first hunting things. And it was gun. I didn't have a bow yet at all. And my dad, he hunted the Nicolet Shawinigan National Forest in northern Wisconsin, which is pretty vast. It's a big, a couple million acres or 3 million acres or something like that. It's vast. There's a lot of predation. There's wolves. There's bear. It's desolate. Like, it's not an easy place to hunt. There's a lot of logging that goes on up there. So there's a lot of big logging roads that you can travel on in 4-wheel drive, and you get stuck in some ruts, and it gets pretty hairy. So he gets done with work. It's a gun opener in Wisconsin. I've never hunted before. I'm pretty jacked. And he's got an old Dodge Ram Charger. It's like a 350 4-barrel carb in this thing. And he's just passing people at night on these 2-lane roads. The engine, it's like backfiring out the muffler. He hits the gas and boom, it pops. And I'm like, man, do we really need to get there that fast? Like, I'm terrified we're going to not make it. We're going to die before we get there because you're cutting a little too close, and this is not a sports car. This is a Dodge Ram Charger. And like, holy shit. So we're hiking up and end up north, and we get to, kind of the general national forest. We're heading to this like timeshare hotel resort called the Nicolet Shores. And it's where his buddies are staying. It's basically a hotel with the kitchen and stuff. So we're on our way up to the general area up there, and we get to like, we're kind of there. And my dad turns off the headlights, and he's like, pretty dark, huh? As he's driving. And so I'm like, yeah, it's pretty dark. We haven't seen a house in forever. Like,
still on the highway, or how fast is he going?
Yeah. At this point, we're in the woods, right? There's no street lamps. There's no houses. There's literally nothing. He's trying to like show me like there's not really anything up here. You can get sketchy quick. So then he cracks the beer, and he's like, yeah, we're up north. You can do what you want up here. It's different world. And fine. Well, he's not even like a quarter way through the first beer, and the roads are so bumpy. Like, we hit these bumps. They're snow covered. And then the truck like it breaks loose, and then we fishtail, and boom, off the road we go and pile into like almost a whole bunch of trees. But there's enough snow that we like hit off the road and fell into this ditch. All the stuff comes flying for my dad. The first thing he says, he's like, it wasn't because of the beer. I'm like, yeah, okay, I know. I'm not stupid. Throws it in 4-wheel drive, and we get right out of it. No problem. He's like, yeah, you can't come up here without 4-wheel drive. It's not going to be a good choice. So then we go to this logging road. He turns down, and then it gets real hairy. Like, we're bouncing around. My head's hitting the roof of the thing. It's like every bump and all the stuff. We get to some area. I have no freaking clue where we are. I've like literally no idea. This is way before cell phones, way before GPS. Like, we're looking at maps and stuff, and he's going off of memory from years past. So it's pitch black. It's like midnight. We're in the forest, and we just start walking into the woods. And my dad hangs my tree stand for me, basically. And then we get down, and he's like, all right, pay attention to your snow, like the tracks in the snow. You're going to find your way into this tomorrow morning, and it's going to be dark still. So I have no idea. We've not looked for any deer sign. There's no buck sign. There's no turds. There's no tracks. It's just, boom, here's a tree. Let's put up into it. And like, I have no idea if there's other hunters. Like, no clue. I don't even know why we hung a set. I think he did it because I didn't know how to do it yet. So he wanted to make sure like I would be squared away in the morning, and then he could go figure out his situation. So we get to the resort, everyone's sleeping. We pass out, wake up in a couple hours, go back out to hunt. And I follow my tracks. I find the stand, which is miraculous. Get up there, and back then we sold walkie-talkies. And eventually I'm like, hey, I'm set. I'm in the stand. My dad says the same. He goes, congratulations, you're officially hunting. And it was like a pretty cool moment. I was like, I am. This is it. I'm out here hunting. I don't know a damn thing, literally at all, but I'm out here.
But you just felt your chest puff up a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, this is cool. This is it. I'm doing it. We're out here. And I didn't see it. fucking thing. Not a dude. There's no deer. I think there's like some dude not far. I can hear him coughing and clearing his throat. I'm like, great. I don't think I'm going to see anything. And so that weekend, as it progresses, I try some other spots, and eventually, I think I had some doe come under my stand right off the road, actually. And yeah, I called my dad on the walkie-talkie. Man, there's a deer. There's a deer. He's like, where is it? I don't know. It's like 5 yards away. He's like, put the freaking walkie-talkie down, pick up the gun, and shoot it. And by the time I like did all that, because I didn't know what to do, I was like, I don't know. Like I've never, no one told me what to do, you know. And I guess I should just shot the damn thing, but I was so excited, so I missed my opportunity. I never shot it because I couldn't. I was just didn't know what to do. So then my dad and his buddy came out and they're like looking at the tracks. They're like, holy shit, you could have spit on the thing. What were you doing? I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I could move it. It was right there. And I had the walkie-talkie in my hand already. So I was telling my dad about it, asking what to do. And he's like, shoot it. And then I just missed my opportunity and ran off. They're like, man, I can't believe you even saw a deer up here. Like, there's no deer up here. That was pretty impressive. Right off the road, huh? I'm like, yeah, right off the road, I guess. So it was cold up there. We went back a couple more years to that area. One year, like I got so cold, it was -15, like no joke. I hunted as long as I possibly could, and to the point of where like I thought, if I don't climb down now, I'm not going to have enough dexterity to get myself out of this stand.
Yeah.
And actually function. So I get down, go to the truck, and there's a hideaway key under the wheel well. Well, it was like covered in ice. I couldn't get to it. And so I was walkie-talkie my dad. I'm like, you need to get here now. I'm going to get frostbite. Like, you got to get to the truck and we got to warm up. All right. You did pretty good. You held out for like 5 or 6 hours. I was like, yeah, well, I could have done it longer, but I just don't think I had, like, it was cold. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So,
-15 is cold.
It was bad.
Is it humid up there too, or no?
No, it's dry, man. It's just dry, like desert air dry. So it was one of the coldest hunts I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm not like, like, oh, I'm so tough, but I'll just deal with it. I don't really care. I'll just keep dealing with it because I don't want to be the guy that complains or the one that's going to get done first. Like, I'll just deal with it and it's fine. So yeah, we warm up and I don't know. That was kind of like my first experience deer hunting. And the fact that I decided to go do more deer hunting and get into it is the part that I'm like, what the hell? Why would that be an attract? Like, people say like that's why they won't hunt, because they don't want to sit in the cold. They don't want to deal with all that stuff. Like, it's, so I had probably the worst intro to deer hunting. It wasn't until I was I don't know, I might have been like 23, I think 21, 23, somewhere in there. I'm 37 now. When I got my first deer. And at that point, we had stopped hunting up north and started hunting in the western part of the state where the Mississippi and Wisconsin River meet. And I shot a spike buck in the neck with my shotgun at 15 yards. I got down to go to lunch. My dad's like, just wait for me. I'll walk out with you to go back to the truck. And I'm sitting there waiting by my tree. And all of a sudden, around this ridge, I hear footsteps. I'm like, this thing is another hunter. It was a buck. I was like, oh, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to get out of here. And blasted him, watched him roll because it was like a really close quarter shot. Got him right in the neck, which is kind of strange, but like he expired pretty quick. And
were you shooting slugs or double aught buck or?
Yeah, just a slug on a 12 gauge pump action that was taller than I was. It's a huge gun.
Let me ask you. So I've actually shot a deer with a double aught buckshot with a shotgun, but you're the first person I've heard have actually hunted with a shotgun besides myself. Mine was just regulations. Is that common in that area?
It wasn't regulation. There are counties around here where that's all you can hunt with. But that just happened to be the only gun that I had. My dad had a rifle. I didn't. It was his shotgun when he was a kid. And so he just gave me that. He's like, here, you can use this, because I didn't have any money. Like, I was pretty poor, and like I wasn't going to buy any of my own stuff. So everything was hand me down to get going. So yeah, that was it. I shot it, and that was my first buck. I was pretty excited about it. My dad gutted it for me, and I had to drag it out and stuff. But I got a call coming in to decline that. Sorry. So
that's right.
Yeah, that was it. And so then after that, somewhere along the way, I just was like, I don't know. I was really trying to get into rock climbing, actually, and I asked for a gift card to this indoor rock climbing place. And instead of that, my dad he gave me his old bow and a gift card to like get it upgraded with the new sight pin and stuff. And I was like, man, I don't want this. Like, I wanted to go rock climbing. What the hell? And that was the best gift ever, because that's what kind of set me on my path. And yeah, I sucked at bow hunting for a very long time. didn't understand the mechanics of deer hunting and like how to scout properly or any of that stuff. I barely understood like reading the wind or anything really. I couldn't have told you the difference between a buck rub and a scrape. Like I thought those were two of the same thing, and people just said it differently because it would
Yeah.
scrape the tree or rub the tree, and I thought that was the same. So like I didn't really know anything. Um, it wasn't until 2017 when I was uh 31, I think, when I got my first doe with a bow. Um, and it was a doe fawn, and I didn't realize it. I was like shooting uphill, sitting on the ground, and this thing was at 15 yards, so it looked pretty big at the time in perspective. And I didn't care. I was like jacked to fucking let one rip, and so it
Yeah.
was a perfect heart shot, and it was a really easy drag out, and it tasted great. And that was my first bow kill, and it felt good to finally like get it done, like crossing these
Yeah.
milestones. And my dad happened to be on that hunt with me. We were hunting a conservancy property, so he came over, and it was really strange. I was like, man, I feel like I'm fucking 12, because he's like, congratulations, you did it. And I'm like, this isn't even like a big deer. This is like a stupid little doe fawn that I just
But you
happened
did
to
it.
get. But I got it done, and I like, you got to sometimes just get through some of those thresholds there. um yeah, so that there was no like major story to that one either, other than I was going into a
That's
spot,
all
there's
right,
another
man.
hunter, so I got bumped out and I backed out and like went to another area, and like apparently the area I picked was better than the other guys, so worked out in
Yeah.
my favor.
I hear a lot of guys like when you get that first bow kill, it just starts to happen from that point forward. There's something about that, like that learning curve. It's something you hit that first ungulate and it just starts happening for you. I've actually never killed a deer with my bow. I've only been to bow hunting for like 3 years, 4 years at this point.
Takes a while,
Um,
it's hard.
yeah, I've killed a turkey, and that was blind luck. I think it actually ducked, but fortunately for me, I hit it right in the neck. So I missed, but a good miss. Turkey was immediately dead. But yeah, I'm still working on my first, hooved animal with my bow. So hopefully this
We
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting. I got a buck this year, I got a buck in 2020, the one in 2020, which is the one behind me. I got really lucky and hit the femoral artery. The shot was not great, and I got very lucky that it like worked out really well with that shot. So that was my first buck with a bow, and then the one I got this past season in 2022 was the biggest one to date. I'm actually just got a call from the taxidermist before I got on here that is ready to go get picked up. So
That's exciting.
yeah, super exciting. That was a really fun one to captivate, or like the memory was pretty cool. I was hunting with my good buddy Joel, and we hunt a lot together. He's a good dude, and he saw that buck before I did, but he didn't have a shot on it, and he told me it's coming. I didn't catch the message until after I had seen it, and I was like, oh, look at that guy. And I watched him cross a river and shake off and go chase this doe around, and he popped out where I wanted him to, and it all worked out honestly way too perfectly. And I was just in disbelief the whole way through, and so when I walked up on him, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I can't believe I actually did it. It's just a wild ride of a
Yeah.
season. So yeah, it's fun.
How many days did you put in the tree stand that year?
A handful, like 4 to 6.
Okay.
I have 3 kids under 5, so
Yeah.
it's taxing on my wife. Plus, I work full time. I got the side hustle, Okayest Hunter business that's taken off. So it's challenging for me to take the time. I wish I had more time. I would
Yeah.
just hunt all the time, but that's not.
Don't we all? Don't we all? I'm right there with you. I told you before, I've got a 4 and a 1. So I don't have 3 under 5, but I got 2 under 5. And my heart goes out to you, man. One more, and I wouldn't know what to do right now.
One more almost broke me. It's tough going from man to man to zone coverage is really really hard. But yeah, they're aging up a little bit, so it's getting hopefully easier in one way.
Yeah, I told my wife, I was like, when it comes to kids, 1 equals 1. 1 plus 1 does not equal 2, and I don't want to find out what 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals, because it's definitely not 3. Like, it's going to be something crazy. So it's tough. It's tough, but I love them. They're pretty awesome, and I can't wait
Yeah,
until they're
right.
just a little
No,
bit
we could.
older, so I can
Yeah,
I can share those moments that, like you had with your dad. So my dad wasn't a hunter, but I can't wait for that moment where I get to go to my son or daughter and just be like, "Congratulations, you're a hunter." Like that's pretty cool.
yeah. There's those moments like that they're pretty indelible. So, my dad happened to be with me in the one I got, and it's funny. We both had to cross this river, and we didn't have waders with us, so we both had to strip down to our skivvies, and he's wearing tighty whities, and just a fun moment. We're barefoot freezing, but it didn't matter because we're looking at this deer that I got. We're all excited, so it was a cool thing. And a day later, he got a big one, bigger than the one I got, And for the first time in the history of our existence, we got to take a photo together with our 2 bucks. And so
Oh,
that's a
that's
photo of a
awesome.
lifetime. It was really cool. My kids were there, so they're in the photo, and it was just, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. So this is a funny story. It's not really a hunting story, but I'm going to tell it to you because it always gets some good laughs. But I was in Puerto Rico, and I'm there with my wife and my mother and my father. My father's not with us, but we're going to go on a kayaking fishing trip to like a bay that is like an inland bay through the mangroves
Mm-hmm.
to see bioluminescence. So like when you touch the water, it glows, right? It's those plankton or whatever's in there that just makes glowing water. So we're sitting there and there's a group of people going. So there's like 20, 30 people waiting for the fishing trip to kind of kick off. And everyone, they come and they go, all right, everybody get ready. Everybody get ready. In the meantime, there's this Asian gentleman just mucking around the water, and he looks like he's kind of fishing, but he doesn't look like he fits in with everybody else. Either way, we start kicking things off. It's like get into pairs. So everybody starts pairing off. I grab my wife. My mom's there again. And all of a sudden we realize that this Asian man is part of the group. And so my mom looks at me, is like, I need your help because this guy is in whitey tidies, like whitey tidies and hotel slippers. And I'm like, all right. So I, grab my mom, connect her with my wife, and then I'm in this kayak. So we got like a 3-hour kayaking fishing trip as the sun's going down, and this guy's in whitey tidies. And we all know whitey tidies, they get a little wet, they get a little see-through. And this guy has no use of the English language. So like they're giving us instructions to help us like navigate through these mangroves, and all he does is paddle as hard as he can. So I'm basically in this paddle with this Asian man, just paddling nonstop. I'm dragging my paddle, and we're just ramming into other boats as his underpants become more and more see-through. And I'm just sitting here like apologizing to everyone. Like iguanas are falling out of trees because we're running into stuff. It was just the most ridiculous thing. And my mom to this day goes, thank you for taking that bullet for me. Because yeah, it was just 3 hours of looking at this guy's see-through whitey tidies. It was tough. But
You'll never get that out of your head.
no, I never will. And yeah, like I said, my mom and my wife still to this day can't stop laughing just seeing me. I mean, the guy was exhausted, and I wasn't even paddling because I just dragged my paddle the entire time just to slow him down. And either way, bioluminescence were pretty cool. Too bad him and I couldn't slow down to actually look at them. But yeah, your story reminded me of that. Also, you said at the very beginning, it's funny how kind of a miserable experience for your very first hunt out there kind of got you hooked. It's same thing for me. My very first trip, there's a little bit more to it about a photo shoot that I've told in the podcast before with my father-in-law. But basically, they put me in a field. They're like, "You're gonna hunt here," and this is Central Washington. And they just set me down. They're like, "This is your spot." And so they're like, "All right, good luck. We always see something there that's this bare field. We'll talk to you later." And they just leave me there in a field called bare field. I had no experience hunting. Didn't know what I was doing. Had a muzzle loader, so I had like one shot.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and every noise I heard, I could have sworn was a bear for the next like 8 hours. It was the most terrifying experience of my life. But then when you get done with it, you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad, and you kind of come down from whatever terror was, feeding me. But I was hooked. I've been kind of hooked ever since. So it's funny how those hard experiences kind of do make hunting what it is. And
yeah, I like fell in love with the woods. Like the North Woods is a very, very unique place. I traveled a little bit and stuff, but just that level of quiet, that many stars, like seeing the forest come to life. Like for me, because I never really had, like some guys are more or less born into private land, managed, QDMA. They're growing big bucks. Their first buck is like bigger than anything I've ever shot ever. That's all fine. I'm not knocking it, but they're going to fall in love with something very different, I think, maybe than what I fell in love with, which was just the process, the journey, the adventure, the forest. And
yeah,
and then deer have always just been the bonus for me. Like seeing a deer is a bonus. Seeing a buck is a bonus. Having an opportunity, letting one rip, and actually tagging, those are all in addition to, above and beyond. That's never the expectation. For me, it's about just getting out there and having fun and learning and enjoying nature. That's it. Like that is my baseline. So, hunting, my demeanor and disposition towards hunting is, I don't know, pretty bushy-eyed for that reason. I'm not.
Yeah, I think you put that perfectly, man. Like that's exactly how I feel. Western big game is where I started. It's a little different than the woods of Wisconsin, but like I never expected to see anything. I'm just walking around, having a good time, enjoying camp, enjoying going out and being in nature, being places where there's no one else and maybe no one's ever been there before. I don't know. But yeah, I love the way that you put it.
Yeah, being still and like letting the world move around you rather than you moving through the world is something I look forward to every single year.
Yeah.
Hunting is not, you can go on hikes all day long and that's fine. That's one way to experience nature, but it's pretty rare that you're just going to sit for hours and observe things. That's not common unless you're hunting something like a turkey or a whitetail or an elk or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
So, yeah,
that's cool.
I love it for that.
Yeah, we're getting too deep here, Eric. This is good stuff, though. But that's not why we're here. We're here to hear more stories. So what else? I know you say you're not a good storyteller. You've already told a couple good ones. I'm going to remember your dad saying the beer had nothing to do with it for a while. And I'm going to make like a sticker with that quote on it. Because
Beer had nothing to do with it.
That's pretty classic. But what other stories do you have for us? Anything you want to share? Anytime a buddy was an idiot or you were dumb,
I don't know. Like, it's hard. I don't ever think anything's that monumental or story worthy. So I'm sure they exist. I don't know that I have a bunch of them. One that I like, I have another Euro mount on the wall here. It's a 7-pointer, and this is gun deer hunting. And I got the same group of dudes now that I've kind of rallied and recruited to come to deer camp. One of them being my buddy Joel that I talked about. He's got this vest, this jean jacket vest that he's had since he's a kid that he does not fit into any longer, but he puts it on over everything. Anyway. It's really funny, like fat man in a little coat. And we've kind of developed this thing where if you're not wearing a vest, you're not going to have good luck deer hunting. So everyone has a vest now. And to really hammer this point home, it was Sunday. Sunday's the last day for us to hunt on the opener before we come back. And I hadn't gotten a deer yet. I'm sitting in the spot on this ridge, and I'm kind of tucked into this hill on this base of a tree. It's pretty cozy. So cozy that I pass out for a while, just fall asleep. It's great. I wake up to a twig snapping. Lo and behold, I open my eyes and there's a 7-pointer headed directly for me. So I'm like, well, luckily I have my 30-06 on, with a nice scope. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to move. He's going to see me, but I'm going to have to find a way to get my shot off. So I open my eyes. There he is. Make a move pretty quick. Like, all right, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to shoot this thing. So, of course, as soon as I move, he puts on the brakes and he goes the other direction, back where he came. And I'm like, no way, man. I'm going to get you. So at about 90 yards, I let one rip. And then I, rack another round as a bolt action. Rack another, like shoot again and then shoot again. So 3 shots. This must have happened in like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
Very quick. And based on how everything kind of came together, my buddy's brother was hunting that direction that I was actually shooting in, but down a ridge. And so I was like, hey, he's like, did you just shoot? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I think I heard something. I thought maybe I saw or it went. I'm like, good. Well, then it should be close to you based on where I shot. But we couldn't find a blood trail, couldn't find point of impact. Like nothing was jiving. There's another hunter that just happened to be in the mix all of a sudden. And I was like, did he shoot my deer? Because we heard other shots. So that everything just created this cloud of confusion because of where my buddy's brother was hunting. I was like, well, you should have seen it. And if you didn't,
how did your shots feel?
Like, they felt fine, but like because it was quick and he was running away, like I was like, well, maybe I didn't get him. I don't know. Like I didn't see him go down. It was 90 plus yards through the forest at this point. So tough to know. Yeah. And I know the area really well. So I'm like, okay, well, this is just generally confusing. So then we wandered around for a bit, trying to like make sense of the situation and just kind of chalked up till I must have missed it. And the other guy must have shot it. I don't know. Pretty weird. So we go back to the truck disappointed, like, well, I guess I effed that up. And I take my stuff off. I put my vest on. I'd taken everything off and then put the vest like back on, or maybe at this point, I don't think we had our full on tradition in place. It was at this time I put the vest on to just like keep my core warm or whatever. And my buddy Joel calls me. He's like, hey, I found your buck. I'm like, what do you mean we found my buck? He's like, I found your buck. And he's like, I was walking out of the woods to come meet everybody, and I smelled a buck. I'm like, what do you mean you smelled a buck? He's like, I smelled it. It smells like a ruddy buck. I smelled the deer. I'm like, you're full of shit. He's like, no, I smelled this deer, and I look and I see a white belly. So he's like, then I get down and I pull up my gun, and he goes, well, that thing's not moving. He's like, that deer's not alive. So he goes, and I walk up on it, and he said, sounds like the deer you described that you had missed. It's in the area that maybe you guys thought it would have been. And by the time we pieced the puzzle pieces together, we eventually did backtrack it, and when we gutted it, we pulled it all 3 rounds.
Oh, wow.
So I hit it all 3 times, and it just was a really confusing situation. And at the end of it all, it made sense as to how we didn't find it, but like it was pretty weird. So we did recover it because my buddy smelled it, and so I have that deer on the wall here is the stinky buck that my buddy sniffed out of the woods and found all 3 freaking bullets in. So
How far did it make it from
far.
rough? Okay.
Like 20 yards or something. He went down.
Really? And you guys didn't find it 20 yards from where you? Okay.
Well, pretty goofy situation. Yeah, I don't know.
What happens, man?
And I'm really glad that he found it because I'm like, well, like what the hell, just strange. But like, yeah, luckily the thing died quick and ethically it wasn't like a bad shot or anything like that. Based on where I got it, so just kind of strange. And I just kept laying around thing because it was running far, and I was like, well, I'm gonna do what I can to get this thing. So that's a pretty funny, I don't know, weird story. So now from that point forward, like it was like the moment I put the vest on is when he found the deer, is how I look at that. And so now we all wear our vests. So that's like a deer camp tradition that we've adopted as a result of that situation.
Is it just like, there's nothing special about the vests, or are they?
No,
like
just gotta be a vest. I got a catching deer's vest actually that I wear. It's orange and camouflage.
There you go. Okay.
That's it.
We have a tradition. Well, actually, I've only been around this camp one time. We killed an elk. Me and my brother-in-law both shot it. Long story. But basically, we go back to camp with this elk. We ended up getting it out whole. So just rolled it down a hill basically into our truck bed, took it back to camp. And next thing I know, my brother-in-law and his buddy are rocking union suits. So I don't know if you know what a union suit is. It's basically long underwear.
The red.
With like the butt flap. Yeah, the red one is the typical one. Turns out their tradition when they put down an elk is they put on union suits and just get hammered. So we get back to camp, and all of a sudden I'm with these 2 guys, and my brother-in-law he's my size. He's like 6'4", but he's 170, skinny guy, and he's got one on that's two sizes too small, and tie-dye. So he's got a tie-dye union suit, and then his buddy's got a red one with a whole bunch of like dots, polka dots, like different colors and different colors and different sizes of dots, like stitched on haphazardly. So like you could probably stick your hand behind some of these dots, and his suit's 2 times too small. And they're sitting there all of a sudden starting a fire, grilling up backstrap and drinking whiskey. And I'm like, man, I feel like I wish I had known to bring my long underwear, right? So it's funny, those traditions that people have in their hunting camps. The vest is a great one. So
yeah, that's ours anyways. It's one of them. I tried to start a new one last year, and I think it was a bad one. We brought a bottle of Malort to deer camp and said anyone that doesn't fill their tag is taking shots of Malort. Well, no one filled their tag. We all took shots of Malort. We all agreed that was a terrible freaking idea because Malort's disgusting.
I've never even heard of it. What is Malort?
Oh, it's not good. It's not even alcoholic. I mean, it is, but it's not going to get you drunk. It's like wormwood. It's a tradition in Chicago. It's like a weird get you drink. Like the saying is like, you want to unfriend someone in real life, you give them a bottle of Malort. I don't know. There's a YouTube video if you watch it, and like there's no 2 people that can describe it the same. Everyone will drink it and they'll taste it. They'll all make the same disgusting face, and it has like this aftertaste that will linger for like 10 to 15 minutes. You cannot get rid of it. And everyone's like, tastes like an abortion clinic in Iceland, or tastes like burning. It tastes like tree sap that someone pissed in. Like it's just awful.
Yeah.
So yeah, you drink it to see what someone's going to say about it, and it's usually pretty comical, but it's terrible.
That's awesome. I think you should keep doing that one.
Yeah, I think we left the bottle at the cabin because we do like an Airbnb or whatever, and I think it's just gonna be there again next year by default because there's no way to drink it.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's it. That's a great one. My hunting buddy and I were like, all right, we're gonna buy a nice bottle of whiskey, and we're only opening it if we put something down. And like 2 years of not drinking this bottle, I was like, screw it, we're drinking the whole thing. We're just burning that tradition down to the ground. And we'll figure out something else when we do put something down. So
there you go.
Yeah. Well, cool, Eric. You got any more for us, man?
Nah, man, that's probably all the stories I can think of for now. Because I don't have enough beers in me to like recant everything. But that's
perfect, buddy. Well, I appreciate you coming on, especially since I know you're not feeling 100%. So thank you for that. And when you do think of other stories, you're always welcome back. Again, not until I've reached year 2 am I going to have people on for a second time, but you're of course welcome. Why don't we tell the people like where they can find you and kind of the stuff that you're working on?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the shameless plug, right? Okayesthunter.com is probably the best place. You can get to everything from there. I will say we're emphasizing our YouTube channel right now. So we got a show we rolled out. So you want to talk about stories? We got lots of video of our hunting season that's airing now. It's called season 1's called We'll See How It Goes, and it's believe me, it's entertaining. It's not like your typical hunting show, that's for sure. It's very much like The Office, but deer hunting.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
what we've been doing. And yeah, check out the Okayest Hunter podcast. If you ever want to call into the show, we have a live phone number. People can call in, share stories, ask questions, shoot the breeze, whatever it is. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And I'll put links to all of that stuff in the show notes. So if anybody wants to find it, just look there, quick, easy clicks. Eric, thanks again, man. I appreciate you taking the time to share some stories with us.
You betcha. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one. All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. I want to thank Eric, of course, for taking his time when he didn't feel well to jump on the podcast with us to tell some great stories. I also want to say that we're definitely going to have Eric back on when we can have a couple beers, because unlike his father saying the beer had nothing to do with it, I think beers definitely have a little bit to do with this podcast and always makes this a little bit better. So we'll go ahead and have Eric on again soon. But that being said, guys, make sure you check out what he's got going on. There are links to everything in the show notes, but you got to check out his podcast. Check out his Instagram, Okayest Hunter, OkayestHunter.com. It's all good stuff. Beyond that, guys, make sure you follow us on Instagram. And more importantly, share this podcast with at least one friend, because that's how we get random people reaching out saying, I've got a crazy story and I want to tell it. And I have a few of those folks kind of lined up. So thank you again for tuning in. Eric, thank you again for coming on and sharing your stories. And everybody, go out there and make some stories of your own. Thank you.